Are you between the ages of 20 and 49? Be sure to take a few moments to watch this video that will show you the 7 things you must learn about money, or else you could face disaster when you hit 60. And just a hint, if you're going to click away, be sure to listen to the first one regardless. It is that important. Frank Thomas here, and wow, what a whirlwind things have been around here. I'm going to leave it at that. In future videos, I'll tell you why. Today, I want to cover 7 things that have become apparently clear to me, even more so in the past 2 months during this big transition, that you just need to know. And as I mentioned in the intro, the first one is the most important, and I want to share it right away because I really want you to hear it. I'm not going to save it to the end. I'm not going to make you agonize and listen to a whole bunch of points. I want to share this one because to me this is the most important one, and it's a trap that I fell into. So let's get started. The first one is titled Getting Started. Getting started is the number one mistake I made in my life. I mean, the big one. I read all the books, did a whole bunch of courses, and had a pretty good idea on how to save and invest. But ask me when I started to save. When I was 40, I had a pretty good idea, and I did save some, but I didn't get serious about saving until I was 57 years old. That's 17 years. Yep, looking down the barrel of the gun called retirement, it made me realize, I'm in trouble because all that lost time on investments was huge. Let me explain a little bit better. When you're young, your biggest advantage in life is time. Let's say you decided to create a savings or an investment or whatever, and you decided to contribute $170 a month for, let's say, the next 20 years, month after month. And let's say you were getting an interest rate of 8%. I think 8% is extremely reasonable. What are you going to have after 20 years? Well, you're just going to have just over $100,000, and 40% of that was what you put into it. 60% was what the fund gave you in returns. So you didn't have to put a majority in them. You put in a minority of the funds. Now, let's say you delayed and thought, I got to think about this. Trust me, when you think about thinking for a month, all of a sudden 10 years goes by. And I mean it. I might be exaggerating, or you might think I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. So what happens if you waited 10 years and started 10 years later, but you only had a 10-year window to invest money and still try to make $100,000? So same interest rate, same conditions, etc. You eventually get $100,000. How much do you think you'd have to put in every month? Remember, the original figure was $170 a month, and you put in 40% of the contributions. Well, it works out when you lose that 10-year window, you've got to put $550 a month to save that $100,000 in 10 years. And you had to put in 65% of the funds. Wow, that's a huge difference. So really and truthfully, the takeaway here is just get started saving. There are many more reasons, but this is the big one. When I say there's many more, there really is many more, and I'll share more in future videos. Number 2, learn to avoid debt. This one should be pretty self-explanatory, but how many students are entering the workforce with $100,000 or more in debt? They're students. They're in their early 20s. Yes, you need to get training to get a better job in life. But if you started to save before going to college or university, it can make a big difference at the end. My children learned how important it was to minimize their debt load from educational costs by covering as much as possible from saving and working while still in school. This allowed them to complete their training, and they were in for less than $20,000, where I see students who did the same thing over $100,000. It's easy to get into more debt with personal credit cards and car loans as well as soon as you hit adulthood. You get that first job and you're like, I want a better car, nicer apartment, some furniture. Debt is not your friend, and I'll leave it at that. But before I share the third thing you must know, be sure to like this video if you're enjoying it. Also, be sure to subscribe if you want to hear a real live reason I'm sharing all these rules with you today. You see, I put a plan into action 5 years ago, and we've just reaped the initial rewards from it. And I want you to watch that video when I release it in the near future. It is a smoking video. Just a little teaser. I went from practically zero to $400,000 in just over 5 years. Just leave it at that. So be sure to subscribe. Number 3, learn the rule of 72. The idea behind the rule of 72 is to take whatever interest rate you're getting on an investment or paying towards a debt and divide it by 72. This will give you a rough idea how long it takes for that investment to double in interest or to cost you in debt from interest. Let's say you save money in a high interest savings account at the bank at 3%. Take 72 divided by 3, and that's 24 years. So it'll take 24 years to turn $1 into $2 or $1,000 into $2,000. Seems like a long time. It is. The stock market pays an average of 10% per year. So the same 72 divided by 10 works out to 7.2 years. That's a big shave in time, isn't it? You're almost doubling 3 times in that same time period. So let's go one step further. Some high gain dividend based ETFs can earn as much as 20% or more. Let's just say 20%. 72 divided by 20 is 3.6 years. Based upon your tolerance for risk and loss, you need to gauge what the interest rate you need to have to double your money. So think about that. That rule of 72 is that important. Number 4, use home ownership to increase your savings. Buying a home and holding a mortgage is much, much better than paying rent. Why? Your mortgage payment literally becomes a forced savings plan. If you one day sell your home, you can draw a percentage of the equity out of that home and use it as a one-time savings dump into your long-term savings and really top up your saving goals, okay? So it's a really great way. If you're renting from the man, and I've mentioned this in other videos, you get nothing when you leave. If anything, you get charged a damage deposit. But when you're saving, you get most of that money back that you paid in the mortgage payments. Great way to have a secondary form of savings, and it's a forced savings plan. Number 5, use cash for all purchases. In today's day and time, it's almost impossible to use cash for all your purchases. Let me share the reason for this point, though. If you're paying a mortgage, it's an electronic transfer. It just comes out automatically, but you know when and what to expect and how much the exact amount is when it leaves your account, let's say after every paycheck. If you wanted to go to the store and make some random purchases, if you use cash, you can see your money dwindle down until your next paycheck. And that is considering the fact you've taken that money out in advance. Let's say I save $400 every month for these little random purchases. So I take $400 out, put it into the wallet. And what happens is, as I spend that down, it starts to dwindle to nothing. And I can see where I'm at. And you'll find that you'll spend a whole lot less on nothings in that time. Reason why is you want that money to last. If you're using a bank card or a credit card, you just don't see it. And it's very hard to track, and you can easily overspend. This will help you keep your personal fund purchases into a more meaningful and set budget. These purchases have a little more meaning, they're a little more fun, and it's a whole lot easier to keep to a set budget, let's say. Number 6, always think long term. When we are young, and if you're still young, you'll understand, because we are young, we have a long time to live, and we are not apt to think very long down the road of life. But as we get older and have much less time in front of us, we begin to cherish our time a little bit more and think a little more long term. Start to think long term about your finances as well, and start now, especially if you're a 20-something. Did you know spending $1,000 today can be worth at least $40,000 in 40 years from now? Believe it or not, it is. What can $40,000 buy you, even considering inflation in 40 years? Certainly a whole lot more than that 1,000 can buy you today. So always consider every purchase and consider it in the long term. This one was one of the most important takeaways I took in the last 2 months when I did a whole big transition. Number 7, learn as much as you can about investing. And this is really super vitally important. As I mentioned in the first point, starting is even more important. But when you start to invest, you discover that you need to learn a whole lot more while you're doing the investing. When I started to invest, I was looking to get a return of around 5%. Now I'm getting a pretty safe average return of about 16.5%. Now, remembering the rule of 72, my money is doubling over 3 times in the same time period than that 5% would have done just once. Okay, so there you go. Those are the 7 rules you've really got to know. And these were really driven home in the last few months. And I really want to share this journey with you. It's pretty exciting. It's my hope that you take these things you need to know to heart and start saving today. Many videos on YouTube will call a saver a chump or a loser or whatever you want. But let me give you a little bit of real life advice. I had around $20,000 saved just over 5 years ago. It was sitting in one of my retirement accounts and it had been sitting there for a few years. Really hadn't gained any value. So I took control of it, pulled it out, and started investing it properly. Today, I'm about to hit $400,000. I'm about $10,000, $15,000 away from that. And it's generating over $5,000 a month in dividend income. So I'll hit that $400,000 in the next 2 or 3 months tops. Please ask the person in the video who says that saving is for chumps, how hard do they have to work for that extra $5,000 a month in disposable income? That's a really good question to ask. Just something else to think about. And as I mentioned earlier, be sure to subscribe because in an up-and-coming video, I want to share how I went from that 20,000 to over 400 in 5 years. This is not clickbait, and I'll demonstrate how I did it. So, something to think about. Hopefully this stirs the brain cells and gets you saving like crazy. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again in a future video. Talk to you then. This is Frank. Ciao for now.